on the implementation of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. There are currently more than 65 million people displaced from their homes by conflict and persecution. In 2015, this equated to 24 people every minute. In these situations, we know that persons with disabilities are particularly at risk of violence, exploitation and abuse. They face barriers to accessing essential protection and assistance, and they're often denied the opportunity to participate as actors in the response. The New York Declaration, which was adopted by the General Assembly in 2016, provides an important opportunity to promote the rights of persons with disabilities in large movements of refugees and migrants. The Declaration sets out the commitment of member states to a comprehensive response to large movements of refugees and migrants, which ensures the full respect and protection for their fundamental human rights. Annex 1 of the Declaration sets out a comprehensive refugee response framework. The framework is designed to provide a more systematic and sustainable response that benefits both refugees and the communities hosting them. It engages a broad group of stakeholders in the response. It links humanitarian and development actors early on in a crisis, and it calls for investment in national and local systems. Annex 1 of the New York Declaration also calls for the adoption by the General Assembly in 2016 of a global compact on refugees, with the objectives to ease pressure on host countries, enhance refugee self-reliance, and expand durable solutions for refugees. Annex 2 of the Declaration sets out a process towards a global compact for safe, orderly and regular migration, which emphasises the need to protect the human rights of all migrants. So responses to large movements of refugees and migrants should no longer involve only traditional humanitarian actors. Development actors also have an essential role to play, as do national and local authorities, financial institutions, the private sector and civil society. The adoption of the New York Declaration provides an important opportunity for organisations of persons with disabilities to engage actively in the response to large movements of refugees and migrants, such as by sharing of good practices, advocating for inclusion of refugees into international and district development plans, and facilitating inclusion of the voices of refugees and migrants with disabilities in the process towards the two global compacts. Another important opportunity for engagement is the Charter on Inclusion of Persons with Disabilities in Humanitarian Action. The Charter was adopted at the World Humanitarian Summit in 2016 as a statement of commitment by the signatories to ensure access to humanitarian assistance on an equal basis without discrimination, and to recognise the role of persons with disabilities as actors in the humanitarian response. Over 150 entities, including states, UN agencies and civil society organisations, have now endorsed the Charter. So in order to maintain momentum and engagement on this issue, it's now important that we continue to encourage more states and other stakeholders to endorse the Charter and to realise the commitments contained therein at every stage of humanitarian action. One key step towards realising these commitments has been the establishment of the IASC Task Team on Inclusion of Persons with Disabilities in Humanitarian Action. And you'll shortly be hearing more from Mr. Abdullah from the Arab Organisation of Persons with Disabilities on opportunities to engage in this particular process. Just to summarise, a common principle contained in both the Charter and in the New York Declaration is participation. So as a number of people on this panel have already emphasised, in humanitarian emergencies and in large movements of refugees and migrants, persons with disabilities are no longer viewed only as recipients of assistance, but they're seen as having the capacity and the right to contribute actively to the response. Partnerships with organisations of persons with disabilities are an essential component of each of these processes going forward. Thank you.
so much, Kirstin.